Hey, what's going on, everybody? Boilon here, and welcome back to another video. I was gonna say episode of Marvel Strike Force here on the channel. I hope you guys are having a great week. It's been a couple of days since I've done a video, and I feel like doing one today. Now, I want to do a little bit of an event recap. So, this month hasn't been particularly great, in my opinion, and obviously the opinion of a fair bit of the community, because there were some problems, especially towards the start, where the thresholds for a lot of these events have been a bit too high. And what they're asking us, the players, to do is, in my opinion, a lot more than what they used to ask before. Now, funny thing is that after the month of April, I put out a video saying how great these events were in the month of April. And then since then, it seems like both the event quality, but the requirements of the player base has increased. And I think that this month is probably the worst one since March, the anniversary event month, which was bad for all sorts of other reasons, including terrible events and reruns of events that nobody cared about. But, you know, how hard we have to go this month, and especially how much resources that they're asking us to use to get to the event items have been a bit high. So I want to kind of recap this, and who knows, maybe they'll actually end up watching this video and might realize that maybe for the month of July, they should tone this down a little bit. So we'll get through all of that, and if you're ready to go, everybody, then let's boil this down. And the great news is that I have all of the data, because I do this every single event, so I have all of this stuff here that we can kind of go over a little bit and do a little bit of a recap on this. Now, I think some of you might remember, probably remember, the Stone Cold Spiders. We had the event item that was the koozie or whatever, the drink, right? And, you know, this was so much of a problem that they decided to I don't want to say placate. It was actually, so we'll go through the requirements, and it was a little bit higher than what was expected. But then I guess they realized it, or there was enough complaints, and they're rerunning this new they created this new Pride event, which is going to be starting on Thursday, and that's going to give you up to 40,000 event currency, which would have made up for not getting the drink. But as I said before, this is China just shifting the bar a little bit, because it's not like they tacked this on as an extra event. This is actually part of the 750k overall, because they removed a separate event that was supposed to happen. They also removed the Crucible Alliance event that was supposed to happen. So they just kind of just changed things around to make it fit within the structure, but it's not like we're getting bonus stuff as a result. So don't think about that's what's happening. Now, what did we have to do for this event? Now, we had to spend cores, campaign energy, and do the raids. Now, the raids portion wasn't that hard. It was that, you know, for the amount of campaign energy that you spent, you got a set amount of points. It's a 5-day event, and so you can see it there. The light blue is always like the subtotal. What was the issue was the amount of power cores that they asked average players to spend. Now, normally in the past that you were asked to do about, I would say, 150 to 200 power cores. That's I want to say that's reasonable. Like, I think that most players should, with the amount of cores that come in with the daily objectives and all of those things that you would do with the gold spending and whatnot, that, you know, getting 150 to 200 power cores daily isn't that difficult. But when they start asking for quite a bit more, that's when it's really hard for the average player to do this. Now, you could argue that these month-long events aren't designed for the average active player, but I think that they should be, or at least they were in the past, and so that's why I want to talk about this. I feel like the bar is being, like, raised a little bit each time, and then we don't notice it each, like, individual raise, but then it eventually does over time, and that's when the problem starts to happen. So basically, you know, if you were doing 200 cores daily for the energy portion of this event, you were then still having to bridge the gap with even more cores, which is where a lot of people fell short on the Stone Cold Spiders event. You basically needed to, rounding up a little bit, you had to do an extra 1,200 power cores over those 5 days, which I believe divided by 5, give or take with the roundup, is about 230, 240 power cores extra. So you're looking at like 400 to 450 power cores per day, including the stuff that you spent on energy. And for most players who, like, don't sit on a stack of power cores like I do, because, you know, I for the most part do, you know, because I know either I'm going to need it for an event, or I'm going to need a certain amount for events, or I'm going to want to open it for a character, you know, whatever it happens to be. So this is why I kind of sit on a nest egg of cores, because you never know what they're going to chuck at you in order for the requirements to get through. So yeah, this one required something like 400-ish power cores a day for 5 days, which maybe doesn't sound like a lot. 2,000 power cores isn't a lot, but for a lot of people it is. So, for people who don't maintain or are not able to maintain that high. So this was a pretty hard one to clear. The Rough Riffs event, now, I have all sorts of issues with this event in particular because the way that they phrased it in the blog, the reduction of the time from the original event campaigns from 15 days to 7 days, they flat out said on the blog online that this was, almost so I wish I had this brought up, that I have the page brought up, and I don't want to waste your guys' time by looking for it right now. But they basically, to paraphrase, that they reduced the time for the event and that the rewards were going to be better. Essentially what it was. And I'm sure a lot of you, and please comment down below if you got 5-star. Previously in the 15-day event campaigns, getting a 4.5 star was pretty average. Like, this was pretty normal, without any other investment at all, without any core opens at all. That 4 to 4.5 star was very easy to obtain. Now, it's impossible to get 5-star, and actually, I would be very shocked if anyone did, unless you got, it's the best luck in the world. But in terms of what your total, actually, I didn't even, it was my other spreadsheet, I forgot. But, I ended up being just under 4-star, and I was doing 200 cores daily. Doing 200 cores daily over a 15-day event would typically give you about 4.5 star. It's those people who wanted to spend 400 or 600 cores daily. Those are the people that had the chance at the 5-star. And now with 7 days, it just totally wasn't possible. That whole line about, making things easier, but also better, it was total bullcrap. And I don't know what they were trying to spin there, but it just wasn't the case. Now, the actual Rough Riffs milestone itself, I don't remember if I had much difficulty with this. Let me know in the comments down below if you didn't like this. The event item requirement was kind of high, but it did use gold orbs, so it really depended on how many gold orbs you had saved. That being said, it also had a blitz component as well, so I didn't engage much in the blitz component. Instead, I decided to use my gold orbs rather than blitzing. But there was actually a point where if you did not, you needed about 20.5 gold orbs to open in order to, get to the event item that included, the kind of the 200 core spending to get the orb fragments and doing the web milestone. I had something like 40 gold orbs, so I was able to basically circumvent the blitzing portion of the event and not have to do that. But for those who were not able to do that, and that kind of doubles down that even though they're doing the new claiming of the inbox, that doesn't get rid of the fact that we're still going to need to hoard gold orbs and training orbs, and who knows what else that they might decide to throw in down the line. So that's not over, and they've kind of raised the bar on this. Usually when a gold orb opening event is required, it was never that many orbs. It was usually maybe 5 or something, plus the other stuff that you had to do. They never had a very high requirement on this, whereas I would say 20.5 gold orbs saved is quite a bit, and you won't be able to do that on demand within the 7 days of the event. So I really didn't like that either. Now we're on to Family Bedrock. This one was not. Sorry, it's already gone, come and gone. Now I did clear this, and it wasn't that bad, but I was spending about 350 cores daily for the web milestone to get this accomplished, which again is above average from what I would think is expected of the players to be able to do. You only got 30,000 points from war, so you essentially did need to spend pretty close to about 300 cores daily with the web milestone, plus the 30 war attacks if you didn't have any training orbs. Now, of course, again, it seems like in some instances these can be circumvented, by opening those orbs, but it feels like instead of being a bonus, that it's actually become a requirement, and that's the difference. In the months previous, the orb parts were bonuses. They weren't necessarily needed to complete the event. You could only open 5 plus do everything else and still be able to clear the event item. It was just that if you wanted to go further, by hoarding would allow you to get further down the milestone to get some of the bonus stuff down there that you could do. But now it's become part and parcel of the expectations of these events, and that's where I think things are a little bit wrong, and where I think things are going in the wrong direction, because really it's just facilitating more spending. They're raising the bar a little bit, but enough for someone like me to notice, who does cover these all the time. And so that's where the problem lies. Now, Tough Crowds, that was a load of crap. Now, that didn't actually have anything to do with the month-long event, but it had a Doc Ock costume, and in order to rank, you actually needed 42,800. I'm pretty sure they cut that in half to 22,000 or something like that. But even still, there was a low amount of people that actually qualified for the leaderboard, and even less people who actually got the costume. Now, I know it's just a costume, but I think this was like some of the worst events that they've been running as of lately, to be honest. And the requirements to actually do this. So if you wanted to get to that 42.8k, the original ranking threshold, you needed to spend about 1678 ISO 8 energy every day, and the daily subtotal is like 1080. So you would have had to spend an extra 600 energy every single day during this event in order to get there, and that was just impossible. And that was also assuming that you had, like, I don't know, the new warriors. You won, you had to win your attacks. It wasn't even just battle, of course, you had to win with them. So if you got some really bad luck on your Crucible matchups, then screw you. Doesn't matter, because you won't be able to actually get the points for the win. And as you could see, that it was worth quite a bit for a win. Like, if you had the whole team, it was roughly almost 6,000 points up for grabs every win. So that would have just thrown this out the window, because nothing you did over here would have mattered if you couldn't get the wins. And yeah, this is an absolute terrible event. This whole, and now we're at Outlaw Encore. And I have to say that my biggest issue with this event, now that we've seen this go on right now, is that it's a 4-day event, not a 7-day event. So Kang and Iron Fist were both 7-day events, which means that you could blitz and farm more orb fragments for longer, which was great. And I mean, not that the blitzing was great, but that it just gave you the opportunity or the chances to be able to farm more shards for those characters. And what's changed from this one from the other two were the drops. So now we have a minimum drop fragments of 20, and we have a 20 drop, a 30 drop, a 40 drop, but we don't have a 50 as far as I'm aware. It does go to 75, I think. But they've changed the drops, and this is much different because the minimum drop for the Iron Fist one was 25. Now, interestingly, the minimum drop for Kang was 15, but this like barely ever happened, and the other drop rates were higher. So I actually do believe the average orb fragments per blitz win on this one is lower. I originally, when I did my first video, I did this with 65 in mind because that was similar to what we saw in Iron Fist. This is wrong. I think this is lower from some of the... Now, this is obviously not, you know, perfect science, but from what I've heard from other people and myself, I think it's in the realm of 45 to 50, which surprisingly makes a significant difference to the overall shards that you would expect from Star-Lord. So with 50 in mind, we're kind of looking at like 118 shards for 4 rotations daily, and then like 219 shards if you do like maxed out rotations, if you're winning 45 wins every rotation, which, you know, not everyone does. But just take a look if I change this from 50 to 60 and like the expectations of the shards. So 118 and 219, you know, you get an extra 11 shards basically just for, you know, that small amount of upgrade, you know, for the average drops. So that's where I mean, like, they probably have lowered the average drop rates and the average orb fragments per blitz win. And, you know, those drop rates, they're always changing it around, it seems, each event to try and hope that people don't notice. But even those small declines, even that like 10%, or in this case, like going from 60 to 50 or whatever, still influences the total shards that you're going to get by about 10 to 15%. And while that might not seem noticeable for the average person, it's noticeable for someone like me who does cover these, you know, every single week when we do different events. And so I think that the bar is just being, in this case, the amount of shards is going down and down a little bit at a time every month, and they're trying to play around with the numbers to see whether or not the player base notices enough to freak out about it. And while I'm not freaking out about it, I just want to kind of make people aware that this month's event has not been very good compared to previous months. I feel that in general, we're getting less shards for the characters. It's being a little bit more difficult to get these. Now, I don't know what's going on with Thor Infinity War in terms of his event. I actually haven't taken a look at the data mines yet for that, but you know, the event, the blogs are going to be up on Friday anyways. I just haven't spent as much time on the data mines paying attention to the upcoming events. But nonetheless, you know, you really do need to make sure not only do you have enough power cores for each and every event that uses them, whether it's indirectly or directly, because keep in mind, sometimes events double dip on cores. They require you to indirectly use your power cores for campaign energy, and then sometimes they just flat out require you to use power cores for the milestone. Sometimes there's both. Sometimes it's literally both in the same event, like we are right now, where there is a power core spending milestone, Space Shredder, but also that, you know, No, maybe not. Oh, and the campaign, sorry, on the web milestone. So, campaign energy. So, you're using power cores twice, just for different reasons. So, here I am right now. I spent a total of 1,600 power cores for this event right now. I think this was a pretty good point, actually. I'm probably going to go up to 2,200, because I want those 10 core shards to kind of unlock him, finally. But some of these are actually pretty decent, and were worth going to. I ended up buying a 2 Thor Infinity War orbs, though, to get that accomplished, and then I'm just doing my energy refreshes right now for the rest of the event. But it's not just for power cores, it's for orbs as well. You really, and I hate this, because it's really just saying that you can't open these until the events go live. So I am hoarding as much as I can for gold orbs, and training orbs are harder to get because I don't actively farm that node, but maybe I'm going to have to, because they're more and more, at least once a month, we're seeing events of these natures that require them, but they're also making us require more of them than they did in the past. And so for you to get the event item, or to get that milestone that you need for that, is requiring you to open more of these than you ever did before in the past. That's what's kind of bothering me and the trajectory of the events in Marvel Strike Force right now. And we'll see. Maybe, maybe they'll have heard the players. Maybe the player voice council will help with this. And if any of them are watching this video, I would encourage them to bring this up, because this is a big issue going forward with events that have been increasingly, that bar has been going up and up. Anyways, that's the end of this video. I hope that you guys have a great week. And until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.